All right, guys, it is Sunday. It is a beautiful fall day outside. Probably high 70s outside, sun's out, but wind is blowing very, very bad. So I can't open my garage door because the whole garage fills with uh, leaves. So the dead leaves are all coming across, getting on my driveway and coming right in here. So I don't have a door or a window or anything in this garage. So when that's open, everything just comes in here. So I'm working in here basically in a closed up shop. I did think about taking this out and maybe driving it around the block or so, but I wanted to get the front bumper on while my wife was here today. So that's what I did. And then I found some issues here. Not really issues, it's just crap that I need to do before I can finalize it. So I've got the bumper on here and that's where it's going to be, but I just have the bolts stuck through it. I don't even have the nuts or anything on the back. But anyway, I had custom built new end brackets here. The factory ones are they kind of go in at an angle a little bit, but they're just a piece of channel and they're not very pretty. They look real cheap. So I ended up building my own that they still look cheap, but hopefully they'll look better when I get it done with them. But these I custom made. This will actually bolt in up there to the bumper bracket at the frame, and then this end will go up here to the back of the bumper. And it pretty much goes like that. But that lower tab right there is for my rear mounting for my air dam that I made. So this one, I've got it just about ground, where I kind of went in and bevel ground the weld there and smoothed everything. So I've got to go back and put body filler on these and with my finger around these areas. But I still need to bevel grind this weld on this tab on both sides. This one I haven't even done. It's just rough welded and I haven't even ground it yet. So like this tabs I cut off were square. And then at the end, I rounded them off with the tube. But anyway, so I custom made these for this car for the ends of the bumper. But after I dug these out of my, I've got big trays in the house. I pulled the tray out and I was like, oh crap, I forgot I didn't even finish these yet. So these need ground, finish, body work them and then prime them. And then sand them and then probably prime them again and sand them and then paint them. So I've got some work to do here, but I still need to finish my air dam. And there's actually a spot on my lower air dam that has a high spot in it. So I'm going to have to actually split it with a cutoff wheel and then hammer it in a little bit and then re-weld it and then body work it. And then so I can do this and the air dam at the same time. So hopefully I can probably work on that this week sometime, this coming week, I should say. So that's pretty much where the bumper is going to be. Now I've talked about this in my videos because I had asked why I built an air dam. I'll get down here. And you can see when you look at the height from the bottom of the bumper to the ground compared to the rocker. See the height difference? Get that out of the way, it might help get a visual there. But that is a noticeable height difference there from the bottom of that bumper to the bottom of the rocker up here, the bottom of the front fender. So that's why I built that air dam, and it's not very wide. It just kind of helps take up a little space. But that is pretty much what it looks like with the bumper on it. Now these are the chrome smoothie bumpers, and I don't know how these are sold now, but when I bought these back in 2013 or 14, these had just, I believe, come out on the market, or they hadn't been on the market very long, and these were pretty expensive. Now they are a little bit cheaper than what I paid, but at the time there was only one company that had these, and I want to say these were like 600 bucks a piece or something ridiculous. And when they came in, they're not that bad of a job. These are not high enough quality for a high-end show car. These would need to be taken to a chrome shop and they needed to be worked and replated. The chrome is nice for a driver. It's just not high quality for a pro build unit. So if you're in that department, you obviously are going to have these redone. The chrome is not perfect. And it's got a few little ripples in it. But I mean, for my car, garage built cars, it's great. But these bumpers did not come with hardware, no hardware with them. And I don't know if they do now because there's cages welded into the back of the bumper because this is a smoothie bumper. They don't have any visible carriage bolts. Normally you would see a carriage bolt head on the outside of the bumper. And they don't have the guards that go up here, the grill guards. So this is the smoothie, and I have one on the back and I have one on the front. So they have them cages welded in the back, and they have a slot, and it's where you can put a carriage bolt in behind it because the carriage bolt has the square flange on it. I went to my local hardware store and they did not have a carriage bolt that fit that width of a slot. It was either too big or it was too small, so the carriage bolt would have slack in it. So when you went to tighten it, it would probably just slip, strip that square part of the flange out. So I was pretty upset over that. So what I ended up having to do was build nut plates out of very thick plate steel that is just about the same thickness of that cage. So I cut them out of thick plate steel, I drilled them and tapped them, and then they slide in and I can put a bolt in there. But I have all ARP hardware, 12-point stainless ARPs to put in it, and the 12-point nuts to put on all this stuff. But anyway, so if you buy these bumpers, you may be in for them not having the correct hardware. So aftermarket parts, you always run into something, it seems like. But that is where the bumper is. Now, I did not put this in the factory bolt hole locations. I actually changed the location of it, because had I have put these on where their bumper brackets are welded to the back of that bumper would be really, really high and back further on the car. So I set the bumper down a little bit lower and a little bit more forward and drilled new holes. So that is where I put it. But if I put it in there where the factory bolt holes are in the frame, that bumper would be up a lot higher than that front of that lower fender. So it's pretty decent. I mean, it's not a bad quality bumper. It's really not, but it could have been better in my opinion. Now, obviously, when you put a reproduction bumper smoothie on a car, it's not going to fit the car perfectly. So like the ends out here, these are just kind of flapping in the wind right now because I don't have them end brackets on, but I've got a little bit looser space back here than I do over here. So it's not much, but these brackets, when I custom made it, these are not the same length. They're not the exact length. There's one that's a little bit shorter than the other, and I do have it marked on the end that once it's bolted to the bumper, you don't see it. I scribed a little L in there for left. But anyway, that pulls the bumper in close to the fender where it's, be even on both sides. So that's how I got away with that. So I guess that's the next thing on the list. I'm going to go ahead and bolt the bumper with the mounting bolts that go to the frame rail horns. I'm going to go ahead and put the nuts on and tighten it down like that, because I can go ahead and drive the car around with the bumper not attached back here. It's not going to flex enough. It's kind of stiff. It's not going to flex into the paint or anything. So I got the cold air kit and the air cleaner and everything on. I think it's on pretty much permanently, because I finally put the timing light on the engine and I finally put a vacuum gauge on it and set my air bleeds. So it's pretty much about where it needs to be. I may have to increase the squirter size, so I may end up having to take the air cleaner off. But I can actually get the air cleaner off and leave the cold air pipe mounted up. But I got into I didn't remember this until I started putting the filter on. When I got this grill tie bar out of my shed, now I had this car in mock-up stage, and I did not mock up this outer chrome on the grill, but I did mock up the grill in the car with the tie bar. So I bolted the tie bar to the grill. This is called the tie bar here. But I had speed hold that, and then I body worked it. I just wiped filler from one end to the other and then went back and blocked it, so it's super slick, but because these are kind of wavy. But anyway, I noticed when I got ready to sand this down to paint it that I had a Sharpie mark right here and going over. So it's like a lazy V. It was a little bit slotted here and then it went kind of far out. And I was like, is that a mistake mark? Because it didn't really look like a perfectly straight line. I'm assuming when I put the filter on to mock-up, I was like, I might want to clearance that a little bit. So I just took a Sharpie and just kind of drew. So I was thinking in my mind when I got ready to paint that wasn't a real mark, and apparently it was. So in the future, it looks like I need to pull this tie bar back off, and I need to cut this right here, just a little relief cut in this, and then I'm going to plate it back in on the back side, because this does have a flange that rolls down in the back about that far. So I'll plate that back in so it looks stock, but I want it to have a nice rolled edge and not just a square cut edge. But there is enough room, like a credit card thickness down in there, so I mean this ain't going anywhere, but there's a credit card thickness there in between it, which is really, I'd like to have it a little bit looser. So that's something I need to rework later. But it's just, building a custom car, you always, sometimes you mock something up and you end up having to go back and retweak something, because I had the car back off the frame and then put it all back on. So some of the stuff I had a little bit more of a difficult time trying to get it to where it was in the mock-up stage. But I'm happy with it. I mean, I got the air cleaner fit up on there, and just in case this is the first time you're seeing this, this is a K&N cone filter. This is a 2 pieces of exhaust pipe. This is 4-inch exhaust pipe. And that is a 4-inch mandrel bend that I got from Summit, and I had to add 12 inches of 4-inch pipe, straight pipe to it. This is a factory 4-barrel air cleaner, and I cut off the snout. I actually had 2 lids, and I cut the back area out and welded it in and ground this to make it smooth because the factory has a snout on it. Then I hole sawed the side of the air cleaner, and I put a piece of 4-inch pipe at an angle down that way. I used a hump hose on here. It's a silicone hump hose. That's what it's called. This is for, like, the engine will move a little bit, but the inner fender's not, where I've got the cold air pipe bolted to it. So you have to have that hump hose to take out the flex. So anyway, this is my redneck cold air pipe that I made. Now this K&N logo is off of a 14-inch K&N chrome air cleaner lid, and I cut that section out and I shaped it to fit and butt welded it in and ground it. So it looks like it is store-bought, which is what I wanted. I wanted it to look like it was custom made for this car, which it is, but that is a K&N logo in there. But I did use a K&N filter. So anyway, I custom built a bracket here, and it has 3 mounting bolts in it. I've got square nuts welded into the back side of the inner fender so that I didn't have to have a wrench down there and then somebody put the bolts in for me. Then I have another flange welded off the side of the pipe up here to the course port with another square nut welded into the back side of the course port, so that 12-point ARP bolts in there. So it's firmly mounted, basically. But I've got an older buddy of mine that I've done a lot of cold air kits on some of my cars, like the last, I don't know, several cars I've built. I've tried to do a custom cold air induction setup on it. And I've got an older buddy of mine that just thinks I'm stupid for doing it. And he's like, I just don't know why you spend that much time and build that stuff when you can just bolt on a 14-inch air cleaner. The reason is, if you've ever had a car and you're in traffic and the hood's shut, there's really nowhere for a lot of that air to go in these cars. So the engine compartment gets super hot in these cars. Not to mention, your fan is pulling all that hot air through that radiator directly, if you're carbureted especially, directly on your fuel bowl. So basically what I'm saying is, if you've got a car and it's up to temp and the hood's been shut, you know, if it's 195 degrees, whatever your thermostat is, open your hood and put your finger on that and see if you can hold your finger on that carburetor bowl. That's how hot that forward bowl gets on that carburetor. Hot fuel, hot air is not good for an engine. So, you know, that's why they have Ram Air cars, and that's why a lot of GM has, you know, ductwork to get cooler air to come into their air filters. That's the reason. So if you had a 14-inch air cleaner on here with an open filter, or any air filter with an open filter on it, your fan is pulling hot air right down its throat, so it's inhaling hot air. So that is why I tried to get it out here, because the air will be coming right into the radiator, and, you know, the fan's pulling in cool air. I can put a piece of paper up here with that fan blowing on it, and it's hard as heck to get it off of there. So, I mean, it'll like suck it to it. So that fan's pulling in cool air for this to get a nice inhalation of cool air. So that is why I do it. Now, another reason is, this is another thing you need to think about, because I got, you know, somebody was making a deal about electric fans suck, you need a mechanical fan, because I did have an issue with backfeeding and all that crap that I worked through. It's fixed now, but they wanted me to just put a mechanical fan on here and be done with it. Well, let me tell you, this is not my first try 5. I've done most of them with mechanical fans and a shroud. And I got to tell you, when you're in bumper-to-bumper traffic and you're stuck in the middle of summer, 100-degree temps, your hood's shut, these cars will start creeping up on temperature with a mechanical, like a flex fan. So you got to think about it. If you got an automatic like this, like I usually run my idle screw down pretty low on an automatic when it's in gear. That way you can hear the cam kind of rumbling a little bit. So with that idle down that low, that flex fan is not turning that fast. So you're not getting a lot of airflow pulling through that radiator. So a lot of guys' cars will get hot in traffic. That's why. So you put in a big CFM electric fan like that one, that one's like 2300 or something like that. That is pulling probably more than that flex fan is going to be pulling going down the highway. So that's why this car, when that electric fan probe kicks that fan on, I can watch that temperature gauge just start dropping. So that is the efficiency of an electric fan. And that's probably why most new cars have electric fans on them now. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I'd like to think. So that's why I will be running electric fans on them. It's just a little bit more air. Now the biggest thing is, this is a 400 small block Chevy. Everybody knows you don't want to get a 400 small block Chevy hot because it'll crack heads, it'll do all kinds of stuff, pop head gaskets. These cylinders are Siamese, meaning they're touching. Like a 350, there's coolant that goes between each cylinder in the block. 400s don't do that. They have steam holes. So these have a tendency to run a little warmer than your standard, like a small block Chevy, like 350 or 305 or something. So I am not taking a chance, and I'm for sure running that high CFM electric fan. But, and also, here's another thing you need to know. Some guys know this. If you're running air conditioning, that puts a strain on that engine, and it will make them run hotter as well. So if you're running a flex fan, which I don't think you're supposed to run a mechanical solid mounted fan. I think you got to have a clutch fan with an air conditioning, if I'm remembering correctly. So you're burning the candle at both ends basically with a mechanical fan, in my opinion. I'm talking with a 400 small block, and if you put air conditioning on it, it's probably not going to be a good combination. Our summers here get over 100 degrees in the summer. Days get pretty hot. So especially black car, if it has the hood on it, it's going to be pretty hot underneath that hood. So this is kind of the way the electric fan and having cold air coming into the engine is going to be my way of, getting away from the detonation and just helping the engine a little bit more. But it's just me. So there's always them guys, they've got to ask questions, but some of my buddies, I had a buddy over here like a month ago. I don't even remember what he was talking about. Well, I would have done it this way. Well, it's not your car. It's my car. I do what I want. So, I think it was the wheels. I think that's what he was saying. I'd have put 15s on it. Well, it's not your car. It's my car. I built it the way I wanted. So, I'm happy with it so far. And the only person I got to please is myself. And so far, I've done that. But you've listened to me ramble enough. So, I guess this will make a video. It's not that I was trying to just make a video of me talking. It just happened that way. That's how it sometimes happens, I guess. I think I'm going to go ahead and break for lunch, guys. I'll go ahead and post this video. So, thanks for watching.